morning. This is Rubaiya Rahman. We are going to introduce you one of the 8 candidates for District 24. His name is Gennaro. He is a Democratic member of the New York City. He represented in the Environmental Protection Committee. He was first elected as in the City Council on 2001, and in 2005 he was re-elected for the second term. However, he was out. His term was completed, and then he was not running in 2013. And this year, for the special election in District 24, he is going to run again. So this is our opportunity to learn about his vision and what he can do when he is elected. So we have some key questions regarding her campaign and the future agenda. So let me introduce you to Gennaro.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you. If I may, I start talking a little bit about why I'm running. I had the privilege of serving the 24th district in the New York City Council from 2002 to 2013. I authored and passed more than 50 bills, more than any council member in modern council history. I have been through 12 budget cycles, and this is going to be the necessary skill. The mayor released the preliminary budget, and his number one priority in terms of what he would like to cut in order to balance the budget is education. That is simply unacceptable. And so what this district needs is someone who has a lot of skill in the budget process. My number one priority is be making sure that this district is taken care of in the budget. Everyone talks about a lot of other things, but that is where the rubber hits the road, making sure that someone on day one who knows the mayor, which I do, and knows the Speaker of the Council, knows the member of the, knows the chairman of the Finance Committee, and make sure that this district, particularly our educational needs, that the children of this district are not left out in the cold when it comes to education funding. And so my first priority is the budget. I do have a legislative agenda regarding clean air and clean water. I did chair the Committee on Environmental Protection. It's important that we have clean air and clean water to make sure that we have less asthma. I was able to reduce the air, single-handedly was able to reduce the air pollution in New York City by 40%. No one else can make that claim. And at the end of the day, a campaign is a job interview, and experience is very important. Many of my opponents talk about things that they wish to do that the city council has no power and no authority to do. And so I think the number one qualification for anyone seeking this job is to know what the job is and what powers the job possesses. And as you and I were just speaking before the interview, when it comes to education, I have a particular focus on kids with autism. 3 of the 7 District 75 schools in the entirety of the borough of Queens. The borough has 7 District 75 schools that deal with autism. The 24th district has 3 of those 7 schools. And I always made sure with Principal Richard Marowitz, who's the principal of the District 75 schools for autism, that all of our kids with autism and special needs are taken care of. So I have a very extensive agenda of what I would like to accomplish, and it is to pick up on where I left off in terms of making sure that all communities who have been pushed to the side a little bit are brought into the political mainstream and have a voice in City Hall. And that's what I did for all of the elements of the South Asian community. As we talked about before we went online, I was known as the Bangladeshi councilman when I was a member of the city council. I made appointments of South Asians to boards and made sure that every constituency renter, homeowner, shopkeeper, every every element of the diverse, tapestry that makes up the 24th district, had a seat at the table. Everyone from, single family homes to people who live in public housing. And so, this is the nature of the job. You have to know everyone, you have to know everything. And having known that, you also have to know what to do. And that is what I bring to the table.
Okay, great. That is one aspect of it. And I'd like to ask you something about undocumented immigrants in District 24.
Yeah.
As you know, it is a problem, though it is a federal issue. How you would be addressing this issue?
Immigration is not really a local issue. We are a sanctuary city. We will remain a sanctuary city. We are a sanctuary state. We will, remain a sanctuary state. When it comes to the provision of services, I will work to make sure that immigration status, can never play a role in the services that are delivered. We're all children of God. We all sit at the table here in New York City. We're all one family, and services will be provided. And regardless of immigration status, that is the way it is. That is the way it will be.
Okay. Even if it is a case of deportation, is there any special procedure that you can be followed in District 24?
My district office gets involved in immigration cases all of the time. Notwithstanding what other candidates may say, what my office has always done is work with the local member of Congress, whether it's Grace Meng or Greg Meeks, to work with their offices to make sure that all immigration issues are appropriately adjudicated. And also what I've done is for the CUNY Law School, what I also have always funded is they have a legal clinic that deals in immigration issues, and I fund them to a large extent so that if someone needs an immigration lawyer for a particular problem and cannot afford a lawyer, I've already taken steps to make sure that lawyers from the CUNY Law School Immigration Law Clinic are available to any member of the community who needs a lawyer to advocate on their behalf regarding any immigration issue.
Well, all right, that's fine then, because it is always a life and death situation. The families get separated because of deportation. So if there is not appropriate or suitable representation for that person who is maybe under custody or who has been detained, then sometimes the families are feeling themselves lost, and they have no place to go to find any help to save their family. So this is
They
one of
can come to me because I provide them lawyers, and so I don't just issue press releases on the need for families to be able to stay together. I put my discretionary funding into lawyers that can directly advocate for people, because the people who are in that situation do not need talk from me. They need legal representation. If they cannot afford it, I provide it through my own discretionary funding to make sure that there are lawyers who can take care of people who have these problems for the exact reasons that you cite. And so a lot of people talk about immigration. I actually fund programs to make sure, legal representation, and also there are advocates for tenants, for immigration. There are not-for-profit groups that when I was a councilman, I always funded. So when we get some constituent call, regarding landlord-tenant, regarding immigration, we not only, reach out to the local Congress member, when it comes to immigration, we also put them in contact with a lawyer who can be their legal advocate in the proceeding. It's very hard to do more than that, than give someone a good lawyer.
Right, it is true. That is the first step to all of the remedies. So, we would like to know your plans for social services, language accessibility, gentrification, and displacement.
Yes, I've always supported all language access measures, with the exception of one bill that was authored by Hiram Montserrat. It was not. It was a bill that was way too expensive and did not make any sense, and was subsequently that there was another council member that did a better one, and that bill that I voted against was vetoed by the mayor, and the council did not even attempt to override the mayor's veto, which it could have done if it wanted to. So the one and only one language access bill that I voted against was a bill that was just, way too expensive and did not accomplish what it was supposed to. And when it was vetoed by the mayor, the council just let it drop. And we did another better bill, which I supported, and I have a full record of all the bills that have come before the council, to make sure that we have appropriate language access. So I'm very glad that you asked that question. Thank you, because that was a strong point for me. You're talking about the things that I do well, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Now, actually, these are the basic problems the immigrant community facing in the district, because we know by experience that there are so many resources out there, but just because of the language inaccessibility, our constituents do not get to know them or do not get the benefit of it. So
Well,
these are
which is exactly why I go out of my way to fund, not-for-profit agencies, who can help people with all of their problems, regardless of language, as well as having people on my staff that speak a host of languages. And so one in the year 2022, one cannot conduct all government business in English. It just doesn't work that way. And so it is important to have people on staff who can actually speak the language, so that when a call comes in, we can better help that person. And in the occasion that we don't have someone on staff who speaks that particular language, we have access through our not-for-profit agencies that we support with my discretionary monies, to make sure that they can have their problems heard and have their problems addressed. This is what comes with the territory when one is representing a very multicultural district.
right. With that being said, do you have any plan to recruit as your chief of staff or director of constituents from the South Asian community?
I have. I have always had someone from the South Asian community on my staff. I have not made any. I have not made any. I'm not giving a lot of thought who's going to be my chief of staff. The main thing is to win the election first, and but there certainly will be great representation on my staff, from the South Asian community. But I'm not going to say that it will definitely be someone from the South Asian community. I'm just not prepared to make that pledge.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, some of the other ideas are like senior care, senior centers, and the city budget for that. So, can you reflect something on that?
Sure. I've always made sure that all of what we call the DIFTA programs, which is the Department for the Aging. I always made sure that all of the Department for the Aging senior center sites in my former district, hopefully my future district, were fully funded in the city budget. And there are other senior programs that are not part of the Department for the Aging that are run by not-for-profits, including one, run by, Catholic Charities on 168th Street, a block off Hillside Avenue, that I always made sure were fully funded. So there's really two parts to that: making sure in the city budget, the Department for the Aging sites are senior centers, which people rely upon for food, are fully funded, and also the other not-for-profit organizations that run senior programs in the district are fully funded. And in addition, I helped save the Meals on Wheels program, which is a very important thing for seniors. Not only for the food, but for the knock on the door every day to make sure that they were doing okay.
Right. Especially during this pandemic era, we are really
right
thinking of that type of service because so many people are stuck at home.
Right. So I was a real champion for Meals on Wheels because I felt it was because there were many people who could make their way to the senior center. But so many homebound seniors that couldn't, and unless you do everything you possibly can with Meals on Wheels, then you're leaving out the most vulnerable of the senior population. Because people go to senior centers, they go there for the food, they also go there to socialize. But for the people who can't leave their home, they need that meal, they need that knock on the door. And they need to know, like we have to know on a day-to-day basis that they're doing okay. And so I was a champion of Meals on Wheels in the city budget because that had a tendency to sometimes get a little bit left out because a lot of council members want to support senior centers that they can go and visit and get votes. And so, but it's just as important, of course, to make sure, even more important, to make sure that people who cannot get out of their homes get that knock on the door and get that meal so that we know that they're okay and they're also well fed.
So you will be encouraging to have these systems if you are elected in the future, right?
I'm going to do more than encourage. I'm going to make sure it's going to happen because I've done it before and I know how to do it.
Okay, great. How about your ideas for promoting small businesses?
There is a bill floating around the council now from my former colleague, Steve Levin. I think it's a very good bill that the city council should move on. And basically, the basis for that bill, I'm a good friend of Councilman Levin, served with him for a long time. There are many businesses in Queens that are not, eligible for the PPP, which is the, Paycheck Protection Program. That is a much larger program. And this bill by Councilman Levin would fill in that gap to make sure that local businesses in Queens that are not eligible for the PPP get kind of like the local version of the PPP. And what is happening now is that the mayor and the speaker, when they sort of grapple with the budget, they are. I'm telling you, this is just how it is. This is not my position, but it is the position when one is about to tackle a budget that is going to have a lot of pain, and they're going to have to figure out how to balance it. And they're already talking about in the preliminary budget cutting funding for education. The council is unlikely to take up this bill before the budget is passed because in order to pass a bill, let's say now, that would create a huge budget requirement on the city, only adds to the city's budget problems. That would not be the approach I would take. And as soon as I hit the ground on the council, I already know of this bill. I know the council member who is sponsoring it. I know of the deep need for local businesses in order to stay afloat. I come from a small business family myself, so I'm going to be pushing. Steve Levin, he represents the district in Brooklyn. I don't have the number of the bill off the top of my head, but I've looked at all the bills that are floating around the council. I think that's the best one that should pass. That should pass now. These business owners cannot wait for this relief, and they can't wait for all of the, all of the budget stuff that has to happen, between now and June. They need relief now.
Right. It is a dire situation right now. So many businesses are shutting down. They cannot really keep themselves going. And of course, this is the time when city council should step up.
Correct.
I think those were some of my questions for the time being. Would you like to add anything at the end?
Yeah, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to reach out through your program, to a constituency that I have always valued, always done right by, and I've always had a special affinity for the South Asian community, and done everything I could possibly do to help that they be served properly, even when it comes to even when it comes to the flagship, public park in that area of the district, Captain Tilly Park with Goose Pond within it, was sorely neglected, and I put round after round after round of funding into Captain Tilly Park to make sure that and Goose Pond, which is a very rare geological feature, by the way. It's what we geologists call a kettle pond. That goes back to when Long Island was covered by glaciers, and so it is very geologically significant, as well as a great aesthetic attribute to the community. So every way that one can take care of the South Asian community and all the communities, I've been able to do, because I have the experience to do so, and I know each and every player in each and every community. I do not need on-the-job training, and I have a very robust environmental agenda that will further reduce air pollution and water pollution in New York City, and so I look forward to getting on the job and doing that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being with us.
And I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Have
okay. A good day. You too. Okay. Take care now. All right. Bye-bye.